Okay, welcome everybody. Very exciting. This is one of our most popular webinars we've had to date, video casts, I like to call them now. We have our CEO. We haven't had him for a while, so this is a special presentation. We've been holding back because, this is going to be amazing. So this is almost like tales from the real world. We've got customers that have been using our product. Adam is here and going to talk about some of the most used threat models that people are using. He's going to deep dive into them, show you what it looks like, go live into the product. I don't want to steal any more thunder. Take it away, Adam.
All right, amazing. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone who decided to spend some time with us today. We appreciate it, and we value your feedback in and after the recording, of course. I'm going to share my screen, start with like the clear agenda item, and present ourselves and myself, and we'll take it from there.
Also, anybody who has questions, just click on that question mark button in your console, and we'll get to your questions too.
All right, let's begin. So a little bit about DoControl, who we are, and a little bit about myself. We are a cybersecurity company based in the US and Israel. We raised almost $40 million in Series A. We focus on SaaS security, on all of your managed SaaS applications in the company. How do we, protect the data to prevent data breaches, mitigate insider threats, and all kind of stuff that we're about to present in a few moments. Of course, we have dozens of customers, primarily from the US, primarily with mid-market and enterprises. Please follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter to see more updates from us. A little bit about me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DoControl. I have over 17 years of experience. Started all the way from network security, firewall routers, load balancers, all this kind of stuff. Went my way up to software engineering, back-end software engineering, Java, Maven, Spring, Jenkins, all these kind of friends. And then I moved into product management. I moved to the US, and most recently, I was a product manager at the Google Cloud Security team, launching the Gov Cloud solution. That's who I am. This is some of the things that I love in life. And this is the agenda for this webinar. We're going to go in detail for each and every threat model listed here, explain, what's the business impact, what's the implication for the company having this kind of threat model, and of course, show live how DoControl can help you mitigate either on demand, automatically. We have all kind of options on the table, and we're going to make it nice, clear, and concise for you. So let's begin. The first one is departing employees, exfiltrating data. This is a very common scenario where you have people who provided a notice they're leaving the company. HR flagged them in the HR application that they're leaving the company, and then for some reason they decide that whatever they work on belongs to them. Maybe it's emotional attachment. Maybe it's some kind of secret sauce that they have found to make progress, and they want to take it with them to the next employer. Whatever the reason is, they're not allowed to, of course, right? So I'm going to quickly show you how we're going about that. This is the DoControl platform. It's a SaaS application, which means you don't need to install any software on any endpoint or any agent, nothing whatsoever. We connect to a number of SaaS applications through our authentication flow. It's fairly simple. It looks like this. I'm going to reconnect GitHub, choose the organization, review the permission, enter my password, and c'est la vie. You're in. Now, what happens when you connect those apps is that we basically have our own API token with the permission you provided to us to make any API call toward the app on your behalf. The first thing we do is that we subscribe to all of the end user activity events, right? So whenever users view, edit, create, delete, whatever they do, anything on the SaaS platform, we get notified in real time by the SaaS provider with all the information we need to operate on your behalf. You can all dive deep into it, check it out, and so on. You see sales candidates and so on. The other thing that we're doing is that we're putting in all the different information across the different platforms, right? To create our own inventory to serve as a source of truth for you. You can always understand what's the that attack surface, data exposure. You can monitor all the different user interaction. and of course, take action to remediate. Those are the first two things we do. Now, going back to the threat model, we are focusing on departing employees. Now, the problem with departing employees is that first you need to know about it. How do we even know that they are going away from the company? That's first thing. Second is how do you take action immediately? And third, how do you inform all the relevant people? Let me just show you live. Basically, this is our workflow editor, right? This is where this is your working tool where you set up all the different automation within DoControl. And the beautiful thing about this workflow editor is that it can accept any kind of SaaS event from all the different platforms generically. It's not like we are telling to you what can be solved. You're picking the event that makes sense to you. And we have over 500 of different events from different platforms, right? So let's say, for example, let's say on Google, somebody has shared information externally. That's a common threat model, right? But the thing is that we want to narrow down on departing employees. The way we do it is that we set a condition that says if the actor, the person who shared, belongs to a group called about to be terminated, and you can see the Bamboo HR logo, this is not a mistake. This is the Bamboo HR integration we have that automatically sync the group to DoControl, representing employees that the HR managers flagged as departing. Nice. It automatically synced. You don't need to take care about it. So once you do that, this entire workflow focuses on external sharing done by departing employees, right? And then you can do a bunch of stuff. So first of all, you can say something like, you know what, I wanna, first of all, see if they shared PII, right? We don't want PII to be exfiltrated for sure, right? So we have that. We are performing on-the-fly PII scanning. So unlike traditional DLP vendors where they perform a full-blown PII scanning across the board, we do it on the spot in the moment that event happens. So we have business context in mind. And so in this case, I'm going to pick the document ID here, and I'm going to pick, credit card or bank account or email or social security, password, even AWS key support, right? I'm going to search for scanning, right? And then we can ask a question based on the result, right? We can say something like, let's use the previous action, success, response, and say something like, if the password probability is, larger, let's say equals to 90%, right? So, PII score is over 90%. In this case, we can just remediate. High risk situation, we can just remediate on the spot. That is a predefined action. Nothing from you needed to be configured. And perhaps we can open an incident at your favorite SIM. For us, it's Datadog, right? You can open an incident, put in all the different, API configuration to send an API call toward the SIM. You can open a ticket if you want to copy HR. You can notify security via Slack webhook and say something like departing employee, and everything is point and click, right? Shared PII with this collaborator. That's how it's gonna look, right? It's a simple message to a webhook. That if the employee shared PII. If there is no PII or not a strong indication of PII, we can do another thing. We can basically double check with the employee and do something like, we can send the employee a Slack message or email that says something like, hey, hi, user, are you sure you want to share this file? And again, everything point and click. with external user. Right? That's how it's going to look. You're going to get a button, approve or reject. Right? This is another option we have. If they say yes, then what you can do is you can wait for, let's say, a day, and then remove. If they say no, you can remove right away. And if they don't answer within an hour or a day, or even less than that, remove. So all in all, within 2 minutes, I defined a really nice workflow that makes sure that department employees will not exfiltrate data at scale, right? This takes into consideration, what action was done on what app, what is the employment status of the employee, what type of data sensitivity they are dealing with. You can extend it even more to what kind of third-party collaborator they're sharing with. Everything is possible. That's the idea behind DoControl. We don't decide on your behalf what is the relevant condition. It's up to you, and everything is possible, right? So we basically covered the first one, the first threat model around departing employee. And I'm going to take your question at the end, of course. The second thing I wanted to show is, and it's very common, is what happens when employees share cloud infrastructure production environment keys in Slack and Teams. That's very common for a collaboration, right? But in reality, that's exactly what happened in Twitter in 2020, where one of the accounts was taken over and browsed into Slack and found encryption keys led to production access. So, and of course, we know that production keys should be stored in a secret manager, especially not in Slack. So let's see how we can solve for that. For this, we have another workflow already set up. And here you can say that the trigger is when people share a file on Slack in this example. And here we're looking at the file name to check if it contains PAM or CRT or SARE or whatever. There are many kinds of encryption keys. If it's true, then we're going to notify the team and delete the file right away. So let's see how it works. I'm going to go over to Slack, to a demo channel that we have, and I'm going to just upload a really dummy encryption key. Sorry for all the mess, but we should have there. I just uploaded it here. Dummy encryption key. Then what happened? The moment me as an employee uploaded the key, because we're subscribed to the webhook event, Slack notifies us very quickly about this event, right? And it will be in a second. And then what happened is that we streamline this event through this workflow to search for the condition. In this case, it would find that the file name contains PAM and fire up the rest of the steps, including the remediation action, which is basically to delete the file, right? Now, the incoming events are subject to Slack, webhook mechanism. For the most part, it's very instant. Sometimes it's a little bit slower, but regardless, it's robust. It's based on Slack infrastructure that sends us the event right away, and from there, it's a done deal, right? So that's how we solve for the second one, right? That's how we solve for the encryption keys in Slack and Teams. And again, it's not so complex to set up. It's fairly easy. It's fairly flexible. You can extend it. You can say something like encryption keys, but only encryption keys in externally shared channels, for example, to prevent employees from exfiltrating your data to vendors, for example. That's also an option, right? Or in particular channels. You can focus on specific channels, like let's say they put it in the general channel, where everybody is exposed. All of the companies exposed to that channel, right? So you have full flexibility to customize this kind of workflow tailored to your needs, right? That's about this kind of threat model. Okay. The third one is around public sharing. And as you may know, one of the biggest problems with public sharing, I'm going to give you an example from Google. I'm going to go to the Google admin panel, and I'm going to show you how few granularity, like no granularity at all, you have over public sharing. So let's say we go to Google Drive, and here over the sharing settings, you can see that this is the granularity you have on public sharing. You can either disable or enable it for the entire company, right? And the problem is that once users get used to sharing publicly, they want to keep doing it to close down deals, right? When they share between Microsoft and Google accounts, when they share with a prospect, but they're not sure how many people from the prospect need to have access to their data and so on. So public sharing is actually very useful for business enablement. But the problem from the security side is that it's not granular at all, as you can see here. So let's see what kind of a solution we can cut for it, right? And remember, the goal will be to disable for some and enable for some other departments. So again, I can just go here. I'm going to pick up on Google again, or we can choose from a template. Actually, it's going to be easier on public sharing. And this is a pretty fine template, right? Boom, everything is filled out. And here, we can start streamlining some granularity in place. And we can say something like, let's check if the person who shared is from the finance team, right? Is finance team. Because if it's the finance team shares information publicly, perhaps we want to remove it right away, right? That's the remediation over there. If it's not the finance team, right? Again, we can check for PII. We can also double check with the end user in order to expire it. So we can do something like, let's just wait, people are going to work. Let's give it a week. And then after 1 week, we can just ping the end user who shared. Again, same drill via Slack or email. Hi, dear user, do you still need the file? File name, shared publicly. That's how they're going to see it. If they say yes, we're going to give it another week. If they're going to say no, where is it? Then we're going to remove it entirely. And if they don't answer within a few days, we're going to remove it. Right? That's how public sharing control is done. I'm going to save this rule, right? And go the other way. Oh, remediation. Let's copy it from Slack. Email. Probably let's remove the email one. Keep with this for me, and then here, that's it. That should be fine. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the dummy file and share it publicly, anyone with a link. Now, as you can see, as the end user, again, I didn't have to install any software or learn anything new or get a ping from the security right away, or nothing that really prevents me from doing business, or of course, exfiltrating data. And that's why we have the workflows in place. And now the same drill, we're going to have the events streamline here. As you can see in the execution, it's here. And I'm going to get a ping. Is it the finance team? In this case, yes, it was the finance team and it removed. Or it keeps on the waiting, right? Now the beauty here is that I'm going to get a ping by the bot telling me, hey, you sure want to do it, right? And based on my reaction, I'm going to approve or reject it. And that's going to streamline the rest of the workflow, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm doing it a little bit fast, I know, but I'm used to it. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you to digest, but you can see that fairly easy to set up the rule. It looks a little bit complex from a decision tree perspective, but it's also easy to understand. You see each and every step is self-explained. You can take a screenshot and share it with your, the finance team you're protecting against and so on. And they should be understanding that. That's how our customers are communicating back to the business unit in order to close the loop end to end. That's the third, threat model we're solving for. The fourth one, and that's interesting, in almost every data breach, you hear that, it was a third-party vendor, it's not us, right? You keep hearing that. So let's double click on third-party vendors. And let's double click in a way that basically one of our goals at DoControl is help our customers achieve least privilege model scale, which means in English, it means that every person internally and externally needs to have the least permission they need in order to do their job. Now, when you work with a vendor, they don't need to have access to the data forever, right? Because if they do, you're giving them more chances for their account to get taken over and for the attacker to have direct access to your company data. Instead, best practice would be to auto expiring the access without slowing down the business. So what we can do, and again, we can start from a playbook. We can do a policy around, third-party collaboration, and we can auto expire a collaboration. So, for example, when somebody, let's say somebody from marketing is collaborating with a vendor, let's say that vendor is, in the group of vendors that you may have, right? When they share with them, you can just wait on it for 30 days and remove the sharing all of a sudden. And look how quickly it is. It's super easy. And of course, you can check with the user if they still need it. But all in all, that was a fairly low-hanging fruit, right? Whenever people share for marketing, you share externally with vendors, you can tell marketing, hey, keep doing what you're doing with those vendors, but know that every data we share with them will not be shared forever. We're going to auto expire it within 30 days. So we have 30 days to put down the business, and you can always share again and again and again, right? Now, the implication here is that if something's urgent, of course, the marketing team can share again. Everything else that they forgot about is probably irrelevant and should get revoked in terms of access. And that's exactly what happened here in this super simple workflow. Now, of course, you can do that across the board. You can do it for Box that had a different schema. You can do it for Microsoft, for SharePoint. When people create a link, you can do it for Dropbox when people share information. So this is a core SaaS application, not just a specific SaaS application, right? It can help you with a bunch of ecosystems that you may have on board, of course. And the experience from your perspective is consistent, right? You're choosing the threat model, you're narrowing down on a specific group or making the workflow very wide, and that's it. The last one is actually very interesting. So that when you share information, let's say I'm going to share this file with a third-party account, you can see that by default, the permission they are granted is read-write, editor, right? I'm going to share it right now with my personal account. Now, what happened in reality from our customer perspective is that they share information like that with their vendors. They all, of course, ran on the security assessment and they signed an MNDA with their vendors, so they fully trust them. They know that they meet the security requirements such as MFA and EDR and all of that good stuff. But what happened if the third-party vendor, in this case, this is my personal account, is sharing it with a fourth party, this other account? This fourth party is a fourth party collaborator me as a company never ran a security assessment again. I have no idea if they meet the same security requirement I'm aligned on with the rest of my vendors. I have no clue. But now they have access to my data. So for example, if they don't have MFA set up and their account they get taken over, the attacker has direct access to your data without you even knowing about it. So let's see what we did about that. In this case, we have another playbook that narrowed down on external sharing done by people outside of your organization, in this case, outside of my domain, who are sharing it with a third party outside of my domain as well. It could be the same domain or another domain, so we can prevent sharing between the same vendor or sharing between different vendors. And when that happened, we capture it, and you can see live action here that, what happened is that we saw the trigger, I shared it with this fourth party, and as a result, we remediated it on the spot. And you can see that now this Cornell email doesn't have access anymore. It's done. And the other thing that we have is that me, the end user, I'm also getting a ping by DoControl asking me, hey, do you still need this information shared with this third-party vendor? And I can say yes, or say no. And if I say no, DoControl is gonna step in and remediate it on everyone's behalf. So you don't need to open tickets or run meetings or access reviews or annoying messages to end users. Everything happens behind the scene on your behalf. And if I go back to the file, you can see that the Gmail account doesn't have access anymore. And if I go back here, you can see that this is my Gmail account. My access has expired. Boom, no access anymore, right? So this kind of remediation is super powerful when you think big, when you think scale, about companies with thousands of employees. The security team has no idea why people do what they do, why they share what they share. They don't have business context. And that's exactly what we're solving here at DoControl, bridging the gap between security and business enablement at scale. That's all what we do. So that's pretty cool. Within 28 minutes, we were able to cover all 5. That's fantastic. I would like to address any question. If anyone has any questions from the background. You're muted.
There we go. Yep, I'm muted. I think it was very clear. I haven't seen any questions yet. As you were doing it, a question I had is on testing, right? Like, let's say you have it set up, right? You have all these flows. Me in marketing, whenever I run like some marketing automation workflow, always it's got like a test scenario there. And you were actually going into live environments. How do companies typically implement this as far as, before they go live with it?
Yeah, for sure. So when we work with our customers, they have 3 real threat models they want to solve for. They have the one that they know about, right? They have incidents, they see the data in Slack, they see they have encryption keys or vendors having access to the data. They have a lot of stuff they already know about. They can plug and play, place a couple of workflows and a couple of quick action remediation that we also have to have a much better attack surface baseline and get it done. That's the first thing. The second thing is the stuff that they don't know. So we have another product model responsible for analytics and around risk management that surface exactly, all the different, data exposures across all your different departments and all the different employees and third-party domains that work with you to help the customer identify new issues that they were not aware of, right? And then, of course, they can quickly remediate some of the stuff with quick action that we provide and set some workflows to prevent and provide automated remediation over time. The third part, which is the most interesting one, is the stuff that us and them don't even know. And those are anomaly detection. So for example, all of a sudden the VP sales decided to share the entire Drive photo with their personal account. That's what we do. We alert on customers directly through Slack, webhook, and emails and SIEM integration to help them understand of the stuff that we don't even know, stuff that happened all of a sudden based on, employee frustration or market trends, or the big quit, the great resignation, or a bunch of industry-wide trends that affect how people interact with their data. So that's how we typically work with customers.
Cool. We do have a question that came in. It says the remediation appears to be based on possible scenarios. What happens when the user does not understand all the possible scenarios, or a scenario is being used that has not been considered?
Yep, that's a very good question, and it makes sense. We can't assume that everybody understands all scenarios, and that's the beauty. Some of the workflows you can tie back to anomalies that we detect, right? So, like the scenario I just mentioned, if one of the executives decide to share everything with their personal account, this is an anomaly, and when you discover such anomaly, you can tie it back to a workflow that can either, notify the security team to streamline incident response, open an incident, open a ticket, and of course remediate and remove the sharing all at once, right? So we have this part of connecting between the anomalies and the workflows, and the other part is where, typically when we work with customers, we present them, I would say, between 8 to 10 critical, threat models they have to solve yesterday, right? So they start there. So the time for value is very quick, right? And I'm not trying to sell. This is how we work with customers. And then ongoing, we identify more scenarios. We alert on you. You can quickly, based on the alert, you can go out and create a relevant workflow and solve that as well. But again, I'm happy to get any more feedback from you. This is the most important thing, getting feedback from the market to better understand, how to improve the experience.
Right. Also, I mean, I know as far as the alerts that come in and the dashboards, and there's weekly reports. So, whoever is actually using the DoControl system, you typically tend to see summaries out there, and it gives you the ability to, think of new scenarios that you want to put in just from the results that you're seeing on an ongoing basis too.
Yeah. Correct. Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, we got one last one here. I know we're trying to keep it at 30, but happy to answer these questions. Let's see. So in that case, the threat already occurs. Isn't the point of the service to prevent the threat in the first place?
Yep, for sure. So prevention is, can be done in two ways, right? In some ways, prevention, you can prevent real threat that you know about in the first place. Like, when people upload encryption keys, okay, let's just prevent it from happening, a done deal. The point of the service is to also identify threats you're not even aware about, not prevent them, but detect them, right? You don't know what's stored in those SaaS apps. You don't know how people interact with the data. So first, it's around detection. Once you detect it, you can remediate it on the spot, and then set a workflow to prevent it from happening moving forward, right? One of our biggest challenges in Q2, Q3 is coming up with a really big array of anomalies that we can tie back to our workflow editor and prevent stuff that we also consider as detected, right? That's one of the challenges we're dealing with, and stay tuned.
And just to give you a real world example, just from listening to a customer call the other day, when we first go into an account, we do an assessment, we call a risk assessment. One of the first things that they see is what percentage of all their SaaS apps are completely open to the public. It's one of my favorite parts of the call, because usually they're just, you have no idea typically how much data is either, maybe it's shared internally to anybody at the company, right? Or maybe it's totally shared open. Most of them probably are benign, right? But if you have, let's say 8%, I think we even have a report that shows on average how many, docs are in those categories. But all you really need is one document that's open to the public that now you know about. Now you can cut it off, and then moving forward, right, the workflows keep that secure. So you could, if you wanted, immediately just cut off everything, say to everybody, we've now installed this. If you do need to, you're going to get an alert saying, do you still need to keep this open to the public or not? Just choose yes or no, and then move on. It won't, it's an easy to implement kind of thing.
Some of the stuff that we came up with is not new. Like getting all of the events from those apps, nothing new. You can do it today with your SIEM, with your Datadog, with Splunk. You can streamline all of those events into one place so you can get notified. The problem is that they have zero remediation action, right? You can't really revoke some of the action or delete some of the assets, or even have like a semi-remediation mode where you interact with the end user or send it to approval. And those things matter at scale, because at scale, you can't just remediate on the spot, right? Sometimes it's like executive collaborating or high-risk situation or important deals or strategic initiative that you can't just remediate. You have to have the tool to have semi-remediation as well. And this is something we streamline with our workflows, of course. I see another question about open source version of DoControl. Good question. There's actually a good open source project called GAM that focuses on Google only. It's called Google App Manager. Look it up. And that's like a cute open source CLI. You can create a token and interact with Google Drive via CLI to do some of the searching, filtering, remediation. But it's just for Google, and it's just CLI, and it's not workflow based. It's all like completely manual. So it's good for like one-off, interaction here and there. I highly recommend to try it out. Many of our customers use it for various reasons, but there's nothing like we do open source because the complexity we have to deal with necessitates funding, I would say, because we are connected to multiple different ecosystems that have different rate limitation and different data models. It's extremely hard to put them all together and perform the remediation at scale without having your token to get expired and so on.
Cool. Fantastic. Good stuff. Good questions. If you guys have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We've got a contact us page. If you guys do want to get that assessment, we now have launched a free assessment page. You can find that on our website. This has been recorded. So if you want to watch it again or share it with your colleagues, that will be sent to you momentarily. Thanks, Adam. Fantastic as always. And we'll see you guys. We've got another one on Slack, actually, kind of diving into Slack. That's in a few weeks. So check your Bright Talk channel and DoControl for that and register. We've got a whole bunch of past webinars that are in there. If you want to watch them right now, you can go in and see those. And until the next, actually one small little announcement, I'll date this. We are going to be live in New York at a user group meeting in Manhattan, our first live event we've done in a while back. I'm going to be putting that up soon on our events page. And then you can also see, if you want to meet us live, what events we're going to. We got a whole bunch of events that we are now going to start being at, and we will see you guys there. Thanks again, and until the next, signing off. Take care.